So this is where we left off, and we're going to pick up here now. We're going to move over to the actual tiles themselves: bat, duck, butterfly, beetle, of which the two of each. Now I'll just run this again, just show you it's slightly different. I'm over here in stage. This is the scripts here, and when I run it, if you watch, you'll notice that this one now is empty. It is emptied, is probably the best way to describe it, and that happens here. And there's a reason for that, because that's going to store some information temporarily again when you're flicking these tiles over. So it's used twice. Number one, to generate a random set of numbers, and then again over here. The other thing that happens is that the I and the J are used again as well. So the I and the J at the moment are used to help generate these random numbers, but then they're going to be used, you'll notice they appear again, and they have a different function. So all these variables have been set for all of the sprites, not just for a specific sprite or backdrop or something like that. So you need these. If they're not in there already, you've got to put those in at the top. You do your insertions, delete all of X, insert, delete all of Y, insert, set I to 1, very important, and then broadcast put positions. Now put positions, as the name suggests, is exactly what's going to happen. It's going to put the tiles in a random position on the screen. So make sure that part's right. Now let's go and look at one of the bats. I'll switch these off because they're only going to be in the way. Alright, we can leave those sitting there, but they can be switched off later. Let's go and look at one of the sprites. Here's bat 1. Okay, now first things first, when I receive put positions, I'll just slide this down a little bit. It looks pretty overwhelming. The thing is, the part that's probably tricky is if you get this right, when you get this right, you then would drag all that onto the next one and make changes. It's probably quicker or easier to drag that sprite, which is bat 1, onto bat 2 first, because the changes aren't quite so severe. Alright, so let's just have a look. First things first, we're not up to clicking the sprite, but you can see what's involved here. When you click the sprite, it turns over. Is it the first one that's been turned over? Is it the second one that's been turned over? So here's your eye acting like a switch. So if it has or hasn't, so that's the sort of stuff you're dealing with here. Did one get turned over? Did two get turned over? Not only that, did they match? If they don't, flick them back. If they do, then just hide them or leave them flicked over. We're hiding them, so they just disappear. So as each pair are matched, they just are hidden, which is why that show is fairly important. Okay, so this is the bit of script that is the most important. So just have a bit of a look at what's going on here. You've got to you need to use the random numbers that were generated in the random list. So it says item 1 of random, which could be 6, of X. So it's picking up for the first, it's picking up the position of X according to the random list, and it does the same for Y. So that there is pretty important. In fact, it won't work unless that's absolutely spot on. Now, so that's your position putting. Switch the costume to the back and show the costume, because it may have been hidden from a previous game. So that's the first part. The second part, same thing. When this sprite's click, go there. Okay, and then we've got a bit of action here. We've got a great big if statement around the outside. We've got another if statement nesting inside that one, and we've got an if else in here. Okay, so first of all, if I is 1 or I is 2, then if costume equals 1. If costume equals 1, then switch to front. So if everything's true, it'll flick. Wait a minute, insert bat at 1 of temp. So remember we said the temp file gets used to store temporarily what's just been picked. Change I by 1. If the item 1 of temp is equal to the item 2 of temp, then broadcast bat. And over here it says delete all of temp and hide. What that means is that you've put both bats into temp because those were the ones that were picked, and because they match, So there's only two things going into temp at any one time. Alright, so when you receive it, so temp just becomes empty. I mean, you could create another two item list if you want, but the temp one's not being used at the moment, so we just use it again. Broadcast bat, else if it isn't, then broadcast reset, and what that does is it flicks it back over, so it hasn't matched, so it flicks back and you just try another two. So that's what all this does. Have a good close study of this, pull it apart, see that one and all that and that. That's what it all looks like. So that all goes inside there and that all goes inside there, and you then, that's what the script looks like. Now let's move to the second one, which is the duck, and see if you can see what's different, because they're all the same. So you drag all that on top of duck and you'll go, aha, item 2. So duck 1 is item 2, item 2, item 2. Insert duck, 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 reset. Okay, so the bits that are different, there's not a lot that's different, but insert duck and your broadcast becomes a duck broadcast. Okay, so there's a whole lot of broadcasts. See, bat, beat, butt, duck, and a few other bits and pieces as well. So that's, these broadcasts are important. You don't want to go broadcasting off to somewhere else. So the duck broadcast is what's controlling the duck. Let's look at the butterfly. 3, 3, 3, 3, I1, I2, costume 1. The bits that change, insert butt, which is butterfly, dut, but. So as long as you get the first one right and drag and drop correctly and make the changes, there's a fair bit of code, but you can save yourself a lot of work by getting the first one right and then just dragging, dropping and changing. Here's Beetle 1, same thing again, just some changes. Beat, beat, insert beat at IF temp. So temp's being used to keep the two beats in there. If they're right, they're in. They'll disappear. If not, they'll be just switch back. Okay, so that's 3. Now bat 2, let's have a look. Like I said, if you drag bat 1 over onto bat 2, you'll discover that there's a few less changes that need to be made, because all this is exactly the same. The only bit that's different is item 555. So bat 1 is item 111, bat 2 is item 555. Otherwise the codes are the same. So once you get duck right, save yourself a bit of bother, drag it over onto duck 2 and go 6, 6, 6, 6. And then when you've got butterfly 1 right, drag that over onto butterfly 2, 7, 7, 7, 7, and similar for beetle, and beetle 8, 8, 8, 8. Okay, so that's it. Let's just see what this thing looks like when you run it. Alright, so looking good. There we go, the green flag. So just click them and they work. Good.